Hey family, it's Tasha MAMABEAR prepping. You already know what time it is. Get your drink, pull up. I already drank all my coffee right now, and I think I'm good. So I don't have my cup right now, but get your drink, pull up. Let's talk about it. I want to actually talk about something a little bit lighthearted. You know, there's a lot going on in the media right now. There's a lot of stuff with these balloons, the one that's over the United States, the one that's over Latin America. There's a lot of talk about World War III. There's a lot of talk about a lot of stuff going on right now. Very, very serious videos across the platform within my community. I want to keep today light and hearted, light and hearted. Okay, that works, light and hearted, because I just want to stay in a positive mindset. Okay, so little bit going on, right? The mamas and the papas out and about doing the things, getting the things, filling holes. And so this is a list of different items that we use all the time. Now, if you watch me, you know I did a video, I don't know, probably last week sometime, where I talked about kind of the prepping items or items in our house that we cannot keep enough of, right? We use it so much, it's hard to actually keep it stockpiled. And a lot of that stuff was food stuff, right? It was like coffee, creamer, vinegar, right? It was the things that we use almost daily. That's hard to stockpile almost because you're constantly using it. And the minute you slip from getting it on your normal shopping trip, before you know it, you're very, very low on those supplies. So check out that video if you didn't already. I'll see if I can find it and link it in the description box of this one as well. But let's get into it. This list is going to be more of your maintenance type stuff, your home maintenance type stuff, your big emergency preparedness type items. These are things that we use almost daily. Most of the things on the list we use daily. Some of them you're going to see we're not using daily, but we use them so much that it's like an extremely, extremely important prep overall. And if you don't have these things, I would suggest getting them and having them prepped, because some of these things maybe for you in your everyday life, you're like, I don't use those. Why would I use that? But trust and believe in an SHTF situation, in a chaos situation, there's going to be things that happen around your home where this item you are going to need, right? And so, because you're going to have to do stuff yourself. So I'll mention this conversation back and forth when we get to that. Okay, first thing I have is zip ties. Baby, I cannot tell you how obsessed I am with zip ties and how often I use them for all types of stuff. Now, some of you might be like, Tasha, my fuzzy ass hair up here. Some of you might be like, Tasha, really? You're a zip tie queen? Like that means all your stuff's falling apart and you're just zip tying everything. I don't think you understand how important zip ties are, especially if you are a homeowner, you build things, you have projects, you might have some stuff falling apart, heavy wind. So we get heavy wind here. So a lot of times I'm able to just zip tie something down, maybe stuff that's hung up outside, whether it's, you know, the shade tarps, if it's a bird feeder, if it's, you name it, right? And the wind is going, and it's hooked on something, you know, just putting a zip tie, you know, really secure some things that would just blow away. Okay. We have one particular gate that always, when it's heavy wind, wants to use itself to blow open or towards a direction that I don't want it to go, right? I want it to stay more like this. And I'll go out there with the big zip ties on the very, very windy days and zip tie that thing together. And not because I think it's going to blow open or anything like that, but just to give it some more security, because the wind is just atrocious on certain days, right? And it really, really beats things up. As you know, we just did our chicken coop, and we did the run, this expansion run on it. And it came with zip ties, but they were really tiny. And so we used our own, and we were just zip tying everywhere, like zip ties everywhere. But I'm telling you, they are so convenient, so easy to use. Anybody can use them, right? Kids, adults, and they come in 1,000 different sizes. So there's super, super thick, strong ones down to itty bitty ones. I mean, you can use them to put up your cords, right? Wrap up all your cords and zip tie. I mean, there's just 1,000 ways. I cannot say enough about zip ties. I could literally be an ambassador for zip ties. Next thing is duct tape. Now, this is not something we're using every single day, but I tell you what, when we need it, we need it. We absolutely keep this stockpiled because it's a must. I can't tell you how many times we use duct tape for various things around the house. Again, like, what is it? Your house is falling apart. Or like, I'm telling you, you use duct tape all the time for various things. Okay. So it's a must. It comes in different colors. you must get it, right? They sell big packs everywhere. Amazon is normally where I get them, and I'll get it usually in big packs in silver and black, but you can get them in different sizes, different colors, all of that, okay? But it's a must. Tarps. This is the one that I was alluding to before. Some people might be like, I've never used a tarp in my life. I'm not going to need a tarp. But if you're a homeowner, and even if you're not, if it's SHTF, you might seriously find yourself in a situation where you need a tarp. Windows blow out because of a nuke or a storm, or a tree falls on your house and you need to block for rain coming into your house. I use them to put underneath before we bring in big loads of dirt or compost or gravel or bark, like whatever it is we're getting delivered, or that we're not really getting delivered, that hubby's going to get in the truck and he's bringing back. I usually have a tarp that I put down first. He puts it down, and then I usually have a tarp over it. We have tarps for everything, right? There's a tarp that came with the chicken run. It's just super important to have those for an emergency. An emergency in case something happens and you need to tarp something off, block something off, okay? Must have tarps, and even bungee cords for tying it down, or string, or whatever it is you're going to use. Zip ties, so whatever. Okay, tarps. Next thing is trash bags. Obviously, we use trash bags a lot just for normal trash stuff. But biggest thing is for your emergency toilet system, right? We have a bucket system. And I put in 2 bags, 13-gallon bags in each bucket. So that adds up as far as your bags, right? Because I like to double bag them. But that adds up when you're going through a situation. If you're even doing that for a week, that's a lot of bags, right? So think about bags. Think about how you would use them. They're very good for waterproofing stuff. Just throwing them over something that you need to waterproof. Frosting, even frostbite for different plants. You have a smaller plant, you need to just throw something over it. Obviously storage stuff, anything that you need to keep protected from the elements just a little bit. Even a trash bag is amazing, right? You're going to need large trash bags, construction size trash bags later on, with bio waste and animal waste and just trash in general, and maybe decon stuff if we go through some kind of nuclear event. We're having to get rid of stuff. We'll get rid of the clothes, get rid of stuff. You need to have trash bags. Cannot stress it enough. Obviously, you can put them on top of windows and blocking windows. There's just 1,000 ways to use a trash bag. We use them all the time, and it's a must-have emergency preparedness item. Next thing I have is lighters. Again, I use lighters almost every single day. I'm a big fan of the long ones, but they're needed for so many things: for lighting candles, for lighting fires, fire pit, trying to cook over a cook stove, whatever it is that you're trying to light. Lighters are super important. Can't have enough of them. The little ones, the long ones, whatever. Get those. We keep matches as well, tons of matches, but I'm telling you, the lighters, we have a lot of lighters. Obviously, they're just more convenient. I know people are like, you don't know how to start. Absolutely can start a fire, but why would you, if you have the opportunity to stockpile the things that would make that much quicker aspect, or, you're able to light something very, very much quicker. That wasn't even English. Very much quicker. Whoa. It's worth having, and it's worth stockpiling. Okay, next thing I have is candles. I just mentioned that. I had a subscriber that told me, candles are so bad. Obviously, I sell candles. I make candles with fragrance oils. I understand it. Everybody does what they need to do for them. I am candles. I don't think you're ever going to get me away from candles. I love candles. I light candles almost every single day. And so we have a lot of them, okay? And we have them not so much really for emergency. It's really just for every day to feel good, to, and yeah, I'll light a few if I think the power's going to go out, but candles are like a really big thing. A lot of people do have emergency candles. I do keep some, I guess you could call them emergency candles, as far as votives and different things like that. The little tea light ones, we do keep a lot of that stuff just for ease of having to just see something real quick. But, candles is just an everyday thing for us, okay? Next thing is gloves. We go through gloves like crazy. You need gloves. We need gloves every single time we go out. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're gardening, if we're building a project, if we're putting something together, if we're just moving brick and moving materials, if we're picking up branches, if we're yard work, it really doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, gloves are needed, and various kinds of gloves are needed, right? If you're doing, let's say, barbed wire over the fence, you're going to need real gloves to be able to do that. Let's say you're trying to remove blackberry bushes, or trying to maneuver them so that you can use them as some sort of stopping point for, fortification of your home. Whatever it is, you need the gloves that are required for the job. And so make sure that you take a look at your gloves. Make sure you're thinking about the things that you might have to do in the future, and that you have the proper PPE, proper gloves for that. Next thing I have is X-Acto knife. Use the crap out of these. I mean, I use them to break down boxes, to cut boxes, to cut things open, to cut feed open, you name it. I'm using X-Acto knives all the time. Absolutely love them. Must have. It's kind of like people that just carry a knife on them, right? You have your go-to knife, your go-to cutting instrument. Absolutely love an X-Acto knife. We have a ton of them. I love them. Next thing is, and just, knock on wood, people are like, oh, but kids, never have we ever had an accident with an X-Acto knife and a child. So I don't know. To me, it's about what you teach your children to do and not do, period, right? And if something happens, and then you address it. But yeah, so I digress. Next thing I have is a tape measure. We probably use a tape measure, I'm not gonna say every day. There's moments, there's times where we're using it every single day because we're in the middle of a project. But probably every 2 or 3 days, we have the measuring tape out, because we're measuring a spot. We're dreaming. We're thinking of things we're gonna do. Will this fit here? What are we gonna do this? Okay, this is the next thing we're working on. Let's measure this, right? We are constantly using the measuring tape. I think it's super important because, one, again, it might not be a thing you use now, but if you are in a point in time where it's total chaos, it's SHTF, you're doing things yourself, you're building things, you're being creative, you're being innovative yourself. And so if you don't have certain things to help you, assist you in that, it's going to be that much harder. Okay, there's 1,000 tools that I could put on this list, but this is one of the ones that just all the time we are using, and we have several, and there's several times we'll be like, why can't I find a measuring tape? And we have them all over the house, right? So measuring tapes. The next thing I have is canners. So I have a couple food type things on here, food processing type things. The canners, must haves. If you don't have them, pressure canner, even a regular big pot, so that you can do your regular canner, your water bathing canning, right? Just must haves. Get them. We use them a lot. And get backups if you can. Next thing I have is can opener. Seems so mundane, seems so like, okay, can opener. Again, there's 1,000 there's 1,000 kitchen items that I could have on this list that are like must-haves that we use all the time. But a can opener is such a huge emergency preparedness item that a lot of people don't think about, which is crazy to me. And it's a must-have. And you should have backups. If you only have one in your house, you're messing up. You need to have 2 or 3, maybe 4, and have them in different locations where you have emergency bags or emergency caches or emergency items, right? And make sure that you have a can opener in those areas, so that you have to go to a certain spot, and then you're not having to remember to bring the can opener with you, right? Like that means like having one in your car kit, having one in your bug out bags, having one in your get home bag, because you just never know when you're gonna run across and need a can opener, okay? But can't say enough about that. Next thing I have is our water filtering system. So we have a Berkey. I think that it's just super important to have, and worth the money to have, a large size water filtering system. Does not matter which kind it is, but you can make one. Okay, you don't have to buy one that's $200-300. You can just make one, okay, out of a couple pans. There's several videos, several people that do that. Just Josh on YouTube has a video of how he did his. Homestead Corner, beautiful channel. She has a good video on how she did hers. Several people have done them, easy to make. And whatever it is you need to do, get that project done, because that is an item we use all the time. You can take it for granted once you have it, right? But if you think about things going left, or all of a sudden we're notified about the water too late, right? And it's like the water filtering you have might be saving you with the immediate water situation that we find out too late, right? This is kind of a weird one. I'm not sure how people are going to take it, but work boots. A good pair of work boots, a good pair of boots to work in the mud and dirt and grime, right? Rubber boots, boots that are good for working in water, right? Steel-toed, like just really good work boots really, really matter. Depending on where you're at, what you're doing, it matters. You have to have those, and you have to have your backups. So if you have your go-to work boots, your go-to rubber boots, like I have a go-to rubber boot that because our yard tends to get muddy. We don't have the grass growing in all the way right now after the septic overhaul. You know, we're waiting for spring. So there's a lot of mud and there's a lot of dirt and muck, and it rains here a lot, right? So a lot of times we're outside and it's raining, right? So my go-to is my rubber boots, but we have boots that are steel-toed and for different projects and different things we're doing. So whatever it is, get yours, and then make sure you have backups, right? Because if things go left, you can't order stuff, and then all of a sudden, you know, something happens, and then you don't have any backups for outdoor shoes, for work shoes. Next thing I have is nails and screws. So again, could mention 1,000 different, you know, tool type items. But one thing that is consistent that we use all the time is screws and nails. You're never going to not use those when you're doing a project. And so having stockpiled nails and screws, you're going to need that stuff. I can't, you know, stress that enough. And different sizes. Make sure you're getting some longer sizes as well as your regular size ones, so that you have some options when it comes to building stuff later. Next thing I have is 5-gallon buckets. Again, you use them for 1,000 things. Sometimes it's food storage, but a lot of times I'm using 5-gallon buckets for different stuff, for hauling stuff, hauling water, hauling feed, putting water in and catching water catchment, gardening type projects for watering, right? So water catchment for my automatic water feeders for the garden, right, in the front of the house. So there's a lot of ways that we use 5-gallon buckets, right? And so I mean, I'm sure you get to the point where you just don't need them anymore because you're rotating. Like we have a handful that we get rotated for different things. But 5-gallon buckets, I mean, we use them for emergency toilets. We use them for putting food in. I mean, we just have 5-gallon buckets for a lot of different things, okay? Just remember you're getting food grade. If you're dealing with food, you want the food grade 5-gallon buckets. But if not, any kind of 5-gallon bucket is fine. Next thing I have is canning jars. So again, that's another food preservation type item, but we use jars for everything, for obviously pressure canning, water bathing. We're just using them to put snacks in and put stuff in so that it can be airtight. Glass jars are amazing, right? You can use them to put other stuff in there, use them out in the garage, put nuts, bolts, screws, nails. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to use a mason jar, a glass jar. You should be keeping the glass jars now that you're getting from the store as well, so you can keep those. It's like a must have. We use them all the time. And then I think this is my last thing. This should be number 17, and that's the dehydrator. Again, it's another food preservation type item, but use it all the time. It's like the canner. You got to keep it going all the time. Use it all the time. If you can't afford one, you can't get one because the nice ones are like $300-400. Start looking at garage sales. There's a lot. That's how I started, was garage sales, and picked up some $10-15, and they were old. They were super old, but they worked. So baby, it helps you get you in the motion of what a dehydrator does, as long as it obviously plugs in and works. You've got it, okay? With all this stuff too, remember, we talk about grid down all the time on this channel, so you should be thinking about the grid down options for some of this stuff. Some of this stuff is not grid down, but like, for example, the dehydrator. Get you a drying rack. Get you a rack that you can hang indoors or outdoors. If it's outdoors, that it has some sort of shut, right, so that bugs and stuff can't fly in there and get your food. But something so that you could, outdoors in the sun or whatever, you can make jerky. You could, dry out fruit. You could have some sort of homemade, drying rack somewhere else so that you could dry stuff. So be thinking about grid down when it comes to these things. When we say grid down, let me see if there's anything else even on here that even applies to grid down. No, all these things are just basic hand tools, hand things, okay? So those are my 17 items. I hope that helps you. All of us, I know, are kind of not scrambling, but trying to ensure that we are getting all the things that we need, that we're filling all the holes that we have, and making sure that we are getting things. Like sometimes when we don't, our mind is just all over the place, and maybe it's an item that we're not using right now today, and so we don't even realize it's something that we need to get into our preps, right? And so hopefully this list helps somebody out there that's watching right now, helps you. If not the specific item, maybe helped you trigger another item, or made you think of another item that you want to get in your preps, that you need to get in your preps. So I hope you guys have an easy Saturday, easy going. Continue to do the things, press forward, don't be stressed. If the news and the channels and everything's getting to you, just take a break, just step back. Okay, just step back from it, relax, do something with the kids, you know, plan out your garden, go play with the chickens, go play with your other pets. Just be easy, right? Maybe it's spend some time with your pet, take them to the park, maybe go to, you know, the pet store, get some over-the-counter meds, get some extra, you know, treats in the stockpile, whatever it is, and just get some preps for the animal, for the dog, right? Spend some time with you know, kids and animals, right? So I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next week on the next video. Take care. Bye.